Bring to order the Yamhill City Council meeting Wednesday, May 14th, 2025 at 6:30 PM. We have a roll call.
Featherston here.
Kind here.
Corrigan here.
Karen here.
Esky.
We're all here. And if we could rise for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we get into public comment, we're gonna answer the questions from last meeting's public comment. Right? The gentleman celebrating, Robert Davis. He had concerns about allowing wineries, distilleries, and breweries into the central business district due to the amount of water they use. We do too. We'd love to have them, but we need more water. So we'll be addressing that as we move forward. Jay Drisbo promoted as the new library in town at the Yamhill United Methodist Church, which is at 185th South Laurel Street. And you should go and check it out because it's pretty cool. Rodney Lossley noted that the last Community Action Committee meeting did not include information on being Zoom only. We've talked to staff, and so for any future meetings that will be by necessity Zoom only, we will make sure that we have a staff member or representative from the city here in council chambers. The Zoom meeting will be run from council chambers, and anybody that would like to attend in person, we can watch the Zoom meeting together. So that's a pretty reasonable accommodation, I think.
Thank you.
Absolutely. JR Ficini was talking about the possibility of getting funding to help clean up the baseball fields at Shane Heinrich Park and getting those open. They put a lot of work into that. And that's kind of up and running. Thank you to Public Works for helping them with that, and YCTC and all the people that volunteer their time and equipment to get that going. Those fields are playable at this point. And we have plans, actually, that I need to talk to you about later, about some first and third base fencing, dugout fencing, bleachers, and potentially a scoreboard and outfield fencing. That's all coming. Then Chuck Mitchell wanted to know what the city's current plan for urban growth expansion to be compliant with statewide planning goal number 10 is. And doing some research, and actually, well, as we're updating our code, was very helpful. So in the research done by our city planner, Yamhill's growing slower than the 2000 projections were. So what he was, I think Mr. Mitchell was referring to is the 20-year inventory. There's 35 acres of buildable land that were listed. We've determined that 13 acres of that actually could accommodate housing, which would be 109 units, which would therefore meet the 20-year goal for the city of Yamhill, according to goal 10 housing. They're projecting that we would be at 1,395 residents by 2044. So at this point, no plans for urban growth expansion. That is, I think, all of the questions that we had from last time. So we will move to public comment. And Robert is up first.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. Glad to be here. I'm going to talk like a Dutch uncle here because I only have 3 minutes and I have a lot of information to cover. First of all, I'm going to be speaking about Dayton. I don't know if you all know this, but this is an excerpt from Scott Unger of the News Register, May 9th, 2025. Mayor cuts proposed for Dayton City budget. Dayton City Manager Jeremy Cuttle recommended the closure of the Panther Creek Lodge, cuts to park maintenance and holiday celebrations. New fees and rate hikes and personal changes are all on the table for the city of Dayton for the fiscal year 2025-26. Cuttle also recommended a myriad of changes and cuts for the fiscal year in an effort to reverse declining general fund trends and provide a 2-month reservoir for the city. Cuttle analysis measures at the city's first budget committee hearing Monday. Changes are needed now to address the steadily decline in general fund balance since 2018, he said. The general fund balance reached a peak of $700,000 fiscal year 2017-2018 and has declined since, with a projected ending balance this year of $105,472. The proposed budget for fiscal year 25-26 projects an ending fund balance of $112,370 with a budget reserve of $6,835. Without intervention, the general fund balance is projected to be $90,000 by the end of fiscal 26. This is unsustainable, Cuttle says. The goal is to have an ending fund balance covering a minimum of 2 months operating expenditure as recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association. This minimum 2 months is necessary for cash flow so that the months where we don't have property taxes coming in, we can make payroll, he said. But also for any unanticipated issues that may come up during this year, the recommended budget reserves this trend of declining balances, having our first surplus in some 4 years while maintaining this minimum 2-month fund balance. The most significant proposed cuts is temporary closure of the Palmer Creek Lodge Community Center, which would save an estimated $16,000 in maintenance and other $3,500 in electrical and propane costs, according to Cuttle. Other proposed cuts include $13,000 for park maintenance, $12,500 in reductions of holiday banners and lighting, $6,687 less for travel and staff for meetings. He also proposed reducing city contributions to employees' health insurance premiums, reducing the city's 6% PERS contributions, reducing hours and implementing furlongs and reduction in force. If the council decides to reduce personnel, Cuttle said he would provide a list of city jobs descriptions for the next budget hearing. Also, the budget recommends a 19% sewer rate increase, a 5% volumetric rate increase for water users, a plan to access McMinnville Water and Light water through a reverse transmission line. A new monthly public safety fee is proposed at $6.25 per utility. Without either cuts in this infusion of resources, the local option levy fund will not have the necessary resources to pay law enforcement services contracted. I just want to say, he's not the only city that's in trouble. Sitting on the budget committee, we weren't doing so good. Other cities, including Portland, are scraping for money. It's going to be a long road to hoe. And I just wanted to let you folks know that when it comes time for the budget approval, please think about these cuts when you enact and approve the budget. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Rocky?
Yeah. Okay. I took it.
For the record, we have a flat screen here that is used to communicate two items relative to it. The first one has to do with the screen is turned around and faces the window so that people on the outside can look on the inside to read the information. My understanding is this is a method of communicating, providing information. I would suggest, because I have done it very many times, and you all know, I don't have to tell you how tall I am. So when I look at this, I'm tall enough to read it. However, with the landscaping on the outside, and you really have to put your feet into the landscape ground matter, which probably you don't really want to happen. But if an idea or suggestion could be made to change that, I think the value of it could be increased. The second issue relative to that is in the past year, at least, the former year, we had weekly posted gallons per minute available for use. And then contrasted to that was the gallons per minute actually used. I understand that to mean the total per each week. I am respectfully requesting that that be reinstituted as soon as it's possible. Then turning to the budget proposed for 2025-26, infrastructure needs actually trump. It would be nice to have. And by that, I would like to suggest that infrastructure is really important. It's already been mentioned to you concerning the potential growth. Well, we can't have growth unless we have infrastructure to meet the demand, the need. Also, grants or like kind of revenue should never be used for labor expense. Generally, it's only good for the year in which it can be longer than that, but much of the time, monies that are dedicated for certain things are short-lived. And if you use them for labor, you can paint yourself into a box. And that's never a fun thing to have to deal with the budget on. Budget line items use. I think our history demonstrates that there are times when we really need to be more conservative than we are, which means that one of the purposes for a conservative approach allows us a larger carryover for the next fiscal year. That is important in case there is a serious problem financially. It also allows perhaps for more money to be utilized in areas where large expenditures are required, as in infrastructure. If we have a budget shortfall, a small amount or none at all, or even a deficit, this is not good stewardship. And a strong financial reserve fund is good stewardship. And in this particular budget year, the Budget Committee was given good counsel alternatives to consider by our former administrator. Now, I'm not sure, I don't understand at this particular moment in time how the budget was completely put together. But I am leaving you with these thoughts because I believe that they are absolute tenets that need to be followed, and I didn't invent them, followed and given great consideration in the creation of every municipal or any governing authority budget. And lastly, if we put a budget together extremely hurriedly, without the greatest of care, it will often result in an unsatisfactory result. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Rocky. Just to remind everybody, there are just 3 minutes for public comment. So I know everything that you guys have to say is important and I do want to hear it, but if we really try to keep that in there, it would be amazing. But thank you again for your comments. Mike Wofford, did you want to speak today? Grant Warren.
Yeah, my piece of paper.
Yes, so council, Grant has applied for The planning commission. And he was speaking because he is from outside of the city limits.
Yeah, I understand that there's possibility of having another person from the outside possibility. And although I do not live in the city limits, I'm a local resident. My children graduated from YC High School, and I feel Yam Hill is our town too. I understand that the growth is inevitable, but feel that the town needs to grow within its means and adequate resources and support the community. I would welcome the opportunity to be part of the controlled planning with my common sense approach and development in the community.
Beautiful. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you. Okay.
Liz Ann, did you want to speak tonight? No. Steve Featherston, did you want to speak tonight? No. I bet you Amy Brewer wants to speak.
I do. I'm here to share the fun. So, not that what you guys do is not fun. I really do think it is. Park especially has really been super fun to be a part of. And then, I'm just gonna share quickly about the event that happened this last weekend. Thank you so much for coming, Shay.
Thank you
So,
for inviting me.
yeah, it was a really great time.
It was.
Yeah, so just to let everybody know that we had a lot of people who visited from out of town places. We did have some people from in town, but we also had a lot of people who came from gathering areas and a lot of, as well as Sherwood, I think, some people from the Yamhill Alliance homeschool groups. They had a lot to do with a lot of our population that came, so we had around we think it was around 140. I didn't get a confirmed head count there, but I know when I did get a head count, it was around 87 to 90 people. And that was like an hour and a half in. And we were starting to lose people because we forgot the bathrooms. Sorry, so maybe that's our note to self that those events, because we served lemonade and we served free lemonade and cookies, and so we needed to have bathrooms there. We told them to go to Beulah Park because they were beautiful bathrooms. Just so that would maybe help me out as an event planner, and if I forget, just remind me. And then we also were the trash cans, so we would have had something like that there because, but I got it from my house. So we were there to supply that, but just maybe a reminder on events when we have people sign up to use things in the park. And I don't know if maybe that's something that we could maybe put trash cans in the park, or because we are having more people there. And I know I've never seen trash there, but because there's people are noticing more about the track, which is a great thing. Anyway, yeah, it was a great town event. All the people loved the wagon rides, and we hope to be bigger next year. So thank you for the use of the this room here. We actually used the television for a workshop from a gal from New York who is the last illustrator of Beverly Cleary before she passed away. And so the whole event was really magical, and a lot of the 15 writers and illustrators that came to the workshops, they loved it. They're telling all people for next year, we might need a bigger room for next year, or maybe we'll just have 30. I don't know. But it was kind of exciting. We also were trying to figure out how to get that space over there for the Stagecoach, because that kind of did not connect us with here in the library. The library actually had more participants who came, and I'm gonna exit. So that was really fun. We connected a few more people, and 5 people checked out books this week.
Perfect.
It was great. So yeah, it was a success. Thank you very much for your help.
And lastly was Pam Kirsch, but you said you didn't want to, do you have anything? Do you think of something?
I have nothing.
No. Okay. With that, we will go to agenda updates or additions.
I did have one update, just for discussion. I have been working on the master fee schedule. I emailed all the council today with some questions regarding police service fee, FDC fees, water rates, And I think. That's it. I don't have it all in front of me, but I'm gonna add that to unfinished business. Item C.
Item C.
We've been working for a bit.
Perfect. And this is where, so I'm glad that Mr. Davis spoke today of budget and Mr. Rocky as well, because this is where we're gonna start saving some money. The rest of your packet is gonna be out of order, your agenda will be out of order. We are going to go into the consent agenda, so these are the changes gonna be made. We're doing something different today. Our finance manager is hopefully with us online to go over those numbers with us to make sure that there's nothing that she has seen that we did not, that would stand out. We will then be moving to department reports, starting with police, then public works, then administration. And we'll move committee reports to number 7 as opposed to number 6. That gets staff at home and off the clock, so to speak, faster. So with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. And Kara, are you on with us?
I'm here.
So we're looking at the financial statement to current and did you see anything on there that stood out to you as something council should be aware of?
Just to make you guys aware, I want to go through just a couple of the major funds as of right now. When we're looking at the revenue side in the general fund, we are going to notice that land use fees are only at 6% of what was budgeted. That was way over budgeted. Those land use fees came in with the new housing development and obviously do not continue on throughout the years, which means that number should have been adjusted for last year and was not. The other two are going to be your property tax revenue and your previously levied taxes. Property tax, previously levied taxes, I think we're going to come in about $2,000 short of what we budgeted. And then the property tax revenue, I think we're going to add in about another $10,000 between May and June, which is going to put us at roughly $440,000 as opposed to the $476, which was also a previously year budget error.
Which
Go ahead.
was discussed in with the budget committee and council was made aware of that.
Correct. Other than that, a couple of things when we're looking still in the general revenue, the planning department, planning contract services is over by probably close to $20,000. I will tell you that the reason for that is because it was only budgeted for the grant that we were awarded, and there was not money added in there for things outside of the grant. So that was a mistake in budgeting during last year's process. And then outside of that, we're going to want to keep an eye on the Hemlock Street project as the invoices for that are coming in. I know Jason said that we would be doing some product returns. That is not currently on your revenue and expenditure sheet because I just wrote one check for that. But we want to keep an eye on that as those invoices come in so that it doesn't go over. And then with water and sewer, basically vehicle maintenance is going to be over right now. We have a truck that is on its last leg, trying to limp by it. And in the next budget year, Jason has moved money in for a new vehicle purchase.
So all that to say, you're not seeing anything that is extraordinary.
Not anything that is out of, the things that I mentioned are the only things that I'm seeing that are going to be out of line with budgetary issues.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or discussion on consent agenda? Did you find it useful to have Kara give us an update on that?
I did.
Better than having a giant packet.
Yes, thank you.
With all that said, can I get a motion?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
My second motion.
You get a vote, please.
Featherston, aye. And I.
Oregon, aye.
Askey, aye. Aaron, aye.
Okay, consent agenda. It's passed. So this is where we're skipping around, so department reports, we'll start with
Keith, Fred.
Thank you. Everyone received the report from staff. You got a chance to look at that. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? The only thing I can add to that is that just be aware that the 19th, if anyone saw the media alerts, the press release for the 19th of this month through June 1st, there's going to be a seatbelt safety operation taking place. So for the Memorial Weekend, so it'll be all throughout the state, but specifically for us in Yamhill County, efforts for making sure that everyone's wearing their seatbelt. But that coincides also with speeding, crosswalk pedestrian safety, as well as the other factors for traffic enforcement and traffic safety. So there'll be a focus on that coming up throughout the rest of the month and into the 1st of June. And every day, but
Yes.
specifically for that, there's a focus throughout the state for that. Funded through the Oregon Department of Transportation and the National Traffic Highway Safety Commission, which is ODOT, and that's a lot easier to say. So buckle up and be careful while you're driving. And Memorial Weekend, they do have a lot of accidents and other things that happen, and so we want to avoid that. Beautiful.
Thank you. Public Works.
There again, you guys saw my report. If there's any questions of that, feel free to ask.
Good.
I'll add a couple things that just came across. Kara could probably step in there if she'd like to. We just discussed the SCA grant, which is the Small City Allotment Grant. It's an upgrade to our 3rd Street, that'd be East 3rd Street walking path. So basically it'd be a sidewalk all the way to Highway 47. That would be fully covered through not only the grants, but our SDCs. So Kara, I believe we wouldn't be paying, I think, no more than 35,000 on that project. Am I right?
So, our portion would be $37,300, which can be completely covered by SDC money and there would not have to be any money transferred, nor would it come out of the street fund. It would be all street SDCs.
Yeah, and according to engineering, we're looking pretty good, and that project was guesstimated at 307,000 and some odd change. So that's a big win for the city there. As you know,
What's it for, Jason?
that's a sidewalk improvement on East 3rd, leading all the way to Highway 47
Okay.
along the park.
Mhm.
So it'd be on the south side of 3rd. Other than that, I mean, I just kind of want to put in everybody's ear that's listening or even out here in the audience, just to let people know with backflow devices, we do have that capability in-house. So if you guys have backflows that need to be done, you can give us a call at Public Works. We can schedule that for everyone, but other than that,
Do you know if there's still reminders being sent out from that?
Angie could probably speak to that better than I can.
I know it was on last month's water bill. I'm not sure if Kim added it again this month or kept it going.
Oh,
But
I mean,
usually
like
it's-
if you mean if you're overdue the one? Like, I couldn't tell you. But I thought.
Kyle's
it's-
been handling the
Okay.
backflow report, so he would be the one to ask
Okay,
about what reports he's received and what he hasn't. But as far as a reminder, we usually put that on the utility.
okay.
No, other than that, operations have been running pretty smooth up to the water plant. I mean, we're bringing in a consistent 400 gallons per minute. Our output is kind of varying. Like, I want to say our average is around 147 right now, as far as our effluent, as far as distribution. Found a couple miscellaneous lines out there that aren't being metered that we're addressing right now on a kind of a high level. Wastewater, we had a phenomenal year. We upgraded our pumps with Xylem, and it was probably the most banner year we've ever had as far as getting those lagoons down to operational for the next coming winter. Yeah, there's a lot of legwork in that, so yeah, hats off to staff there. So no, I don't have anything else unless you guys have something to ask.
I actually have a question. Being that it's beginning, it's gonna be summer here shortly, and you're the one that's basically in charge of notifying everybody in regard to potential water savings and that kind of thing. Do you have any idea when you anticipate at least a level 1? So people can, get on the bandwagon, so to speak, to start looking at that?
Like I addressed, Patty, right now, we're pulling in what we were pulling in at the winter high rates. So we are looking pretty good at this point.
Okay.
To make that prediction, I would be guesstimating, and that's not fair to everybody. So I will let people know a month's time in advance. So as soon as we know, we see a dip, because we have telemetry up there that reads that creek as far as, cubic feet per second. So
Why?
I will let everybody know. We've upgraded the tech up there that we're a lot more savvy than we were in years past, so.
Good. Okay.
All I can say to that.
Anything else for you, Jason?
I don't have anything else.
So, and this is gonna be another new thing, so looking at the rest of the agenda, I don't see any reason for staff to continue to spend time at the meeting. If you have someplace else or you have a family you wanna go see, if you don't, hang out, but nobody's required.
Jason's beating feet.
Thank you.
The disruption.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Except for you.
I was.
It won't work at home.
Yeah, we tried that.
I'll zoom
Wasn't
out.
as good. So that, it brings us to another change. So the administrator report. Most of you are probably aware that for budgetary reasons, we do not have a city administrator. So Angie and I will both be given a little bit of a report here during this bit. We did like the PowerPoint, and so we're gonna be continuing along with that. We haven't decided exactly who's gonna be giving it, but today Angie's going to start with it.
I'm gonna start with it today.
We don't have to start with that. I can start first.
All right,
All right, so I was tasked with some of the duties from the city administrator would typically take care of. And several things that we've done since our last meeting. A lot of it was budgetary here. We had employed a city planner with COG. And although he was doing a great job, his bill was going over by quite a large sum. It was unsustainable. We were being charged $107 for every telephone call made, every email that was sent. And even those, if somebody called, not from the city, but if somebody called that was wanting to build a building and ask him a question, he would say, that he wasn't able to speak to them, that you would have to contact the city, and then he would charge us $107 for that.
How often is that happening?
A lot, like an alarming amount. So that being said, that's unsustainable. So we reached out to Walt Wendelowski, who had been our former planner. He was in retirement and said the nicest words I could think of. And he has agreed to come back starting immediately as our planner. He will be on board with several upcoming meetings, including our code updates. So we'll have a little bit of a transition period during the next meeting, and then he will be back full time. ARPA reporting. This is something that I feel like is important for transparency. Maybe it wouldn't always have been done. The ARPA is the money that we received during COVID. It was in the amount of around $257,000. It required monthly reporting. That had not been done for 2 years. And one of the potential penalties is a $257,000 refund, which we will not take care of. So what I did was we contacted Senator Merkley's office and the National League of Cities. We have worked with them. We had staff, we had 2 weeks to try to come up with 2 years worth of reports. The Treasury Department was not, because their portal was closing on the 1st of this month. They were very overwhelmed with cities trying to get in at the last minute and were not able to help us with some of the passwords, which were not available to staff because of previous staff. However, with those assistants and with help from our staff now, we're set up into a meeting, several meetings that are taking place where we will be able to file those reports and avoid penalty of any kind. FEMA tank, we were let know, the FEMA tank is our sort of nickname for a water tank up on Reservoir Road that would bring our water capacity and storage to 2.1 million. That's a grant through FEMA. With some changes that have been made at the federal level, that grant has been moved into an at-risk category. We were just sent an email yesterday. So John Christensen, Jason Wofford, and myself will be attending a meeting with Shannon Briers with the mitigation program to address any concerns that they had in order to make sure that that grant goes through successfully. I have high hopes
What
that
is
that
that?
continues.
What is, it's at risk? What was it before?
We were basically waiting for an acceptance letter.
And something changed?
FEMA money's being held up at the federal level.
Oh, okay.
So in order to make sure that it's not a frivolous type of thing, some more questions have to be answered, and it looks like John Christensen is really on top of that. And we all responded right away, so I'm confident that we can still move forward successfully with that.
So Shay, I have a
Yes.
quick question.
Absolutely.
So how is that going to affect the budget? Because $40,000 or whatever it was of the FEMA money was going to be, it was moved in the budget. And I don't remember exactly, because I don't have that one with me.
So the FEMA money was not moved anywhere because we don't count money. So we have a line item
Right,
for a grant that we hope to get.
okay,
If that grant took longer than the next budget year, it would simply carry on to the next fiscal year.
okay.
So no money's been spent. We don't spend money anymore until we have it. This is a new thing.
That's a good thing.
But
I
we're,
think the 40,000 she's referring to is our matching money, and it was in a different spot.
No, because it was, and I don't, like I said, I don't have that with me tonight. But it was addressed in the budget meeting about potentially having that FEMA money sitting there.
so, yeah, oh, I think I know what you're talking about. So there was money, so in addition to the money for the tank, there was another grant, it's a total of $90,000. And that was broken down
Yes.
into smaller increments.
Yes,
So that was, that extra, so that money will come only if the money for the tank comes.
okay,
That $90,000 was amazing because it was an additional bit of grant that would then cover legal fees and admin costs.
mhm.
So, yes. Oh, Kara, would you like to go?
Hold on. Yeah. Carol, can you hear us?
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I apologize. So yes, the 90,000 was in addition to what the FEMA grant was, and it was going to be to help pay for the incidentals of the FEMA grant. Now, I will tell you, after a conversation today with John and Jason, that number has gone from 90,000 to 60,000 because they have deemed that we do not need the dues travel training, and we do not need the contract services portion of it. And yes, 40,000 of that was being transferred into the general fund. So with that being said, if that revenue is not available, then we will have to change our direction on funding the general fund.
So that money was moved, so that money was, well, on the proposed budget, it was moved in before we got it?
So we don't have any of the FEMA money yet.
Correct.
However, we were told that these were the numbers that we were going to be looking at playing with. So the number that went from 90,000 to 60,000 as the helping money, quote unquote, for admin expenses, the 60,000, 40,000 was going to go into the general fund and 20,000 was going to stay in water.
Okay.
So to answer that question, we moved 40,000 into resources in the general fund, but we also left $40,000 contingency in.
That's what I was wondering about, so there was contingency money there that was still in the general fund if that doesn't go through?
zero wash. We did account for the fact that we might not get that money.
Is that you remember that to be the case as well, Karen?
Understanding that we might not get that, yes, there's going to have to be different budgeting principles that come into play if that money does not come through. Correct.
Okay. So to finish with that, we'll be working with Shannon Briers with the mitigation plan. And again, that does look like it will be a success. It just, there's some questions that still need to be asked. The transient lodging tax update, not much had been done with that. I saw some emails that had gone around, but we're actually updating an application process for our Airbnbs in town. They'll be paying a lodging tax of 7% a night, and we should have that probably ready for council, I'm guessing by the next meeting. Then we have a transportation master plan. We're looking at we postponed that meeting from this week. It'll be in the next week or two with ODOT and then our new city planner, Walt, Jason, and myself. The Merkley grant, that's the famous money from Senator Merkley's office that will be studying pipelines to and from Hillsborough and McMinnville potentially. We reached out to Gustavo, who's our liaison with that, and he's working to free up money, which is also tied up at the federal level. We're just waiting again for an acceptance to that grant. DLCD grant reimbursements, that's the update for the code in the downtown area. We have a reimbursement grant that we will have reports turned in by June 11th with the help of Doug Rux and Steve Faust. And that is about it for what I was doing this month. Angie, you ready?
And then Kara, I saw you raise your hand again. Did you have something else to add?
I just wanted to add in that if that 40,000 does not come through, on the revenue side of things, I have been incredibly conservative with those numbers. So almost straight across the board, we're going to see higher numbers than what I have put into the budget. And I have done that for a reason, which is, first of all, we need to not be over budgeting on the revenue side of things. We need to flip the budget back to the positive. And secondly, because there are things like that 40,000 FEMA grant that may not come through. So with that being said, just specifically in the property tax revenue, I'm going to estimate next year that based off of what I budgeted, what the actual will probably be about $20,000 in addition to what I budgeted for. So I don't see the problem if the FEMA grant does not come through, because like I said, I was very conservative with that side of the numbers.
Thank you. Angie, are you ready for your portion? Great.
I don't like public speaking, so bear with me and try not to laugh if I stutter. So this is the city staff report for, well, May 14th, 2025. So it's for the previous month. All right, first we have the police department. This is information that I pulled from the report that was included in the packet. So I'm just kind of giving highlights of what the police already provided. We have Chief Graven doing agency assists, including tractor rollover, motor vehicle crash, and a wildland fire. Critical incident tabletop exercise at Yamhill Carlton District Office. He attended Echo Suicide Prevention Follow-up post-training interview. Called for extra patrol for speeding on North Cedar Street. He attended staff, council, budget, and special meetings. Processed record requests, training requests, and equipment records. Corporal Van Cleve attended a DUII conference in Bend. He also attended the OACP conference and trade show in Pendleton. He did 8 patrols, 2 was civilian ride-along passengers. Handled a parking complaint, a welfare check, and a reckless driver, and also completed several agency assists. Officer Miller worked seatbelt and speed grants. He did calls to 6 crashes, 2 medical and 1 vehicle fire. Response to a possible DUI, a domestic and a possible fight. And I believe that possible fight just ended up being 2 kids chasing a bunny in their backyard. His last day at YPD was April 25th. And we just want to say thank you for your service, Officer Miller. SRO Livingston attended 2 level 1 threat assessments at the intermediate and high school. And did 30 hours of drone training. For April 2025. Number of calls activity, 208. Number of case reported, number of arrests, 4. Number of municipal court citations, 47. 125 warnings. 6 circuit court citations. 50 citizen calls for service and 123 officer initiated contacts. For hours worked, we have Chief Graven at 195, Corporal Van Cleve at 179, Officer Miller 116, Officer Livingston 100, for total coverage hours of 590. For miles driven, Chief Graven 1017, Corporal Van Cleve 1525, Officer Miller 725, SRO Livingston 247, for a total of 3,513. And now we move into Public Works. At wastewater, they perform the daily readings and operations on lagoon systems. The lagoon 4 is at 4.2 feet and they are no longer discharging to the river. For streets, they repaired potholes and fixed a stop sign. And then at the parks, they began prep work for the staining the restrooms and perform normal maintenance. At City Hall, we have the office manager, city clerk, did the monthly and payroll and PERS reporting as per usual. Monthly court data entry processing of citations. She received a scholarship for the OACA conference and saved $250 for the city and dues travel training. Code enforcement calls for an RV in the right of way, noise complaint, and yard care, enforcement of unauthorized building. That's still in progress, which we might see more of next month. And attended critical incident tabletop exercise at Yamhill Carlton School District.
What is unauthorized building?
Unauthorized building would be building without a permit on a parcel of land.
Okay, is that like on a court base thing or just something that you guys, somebody noticed?
Yeah, I think it's just, it wasn't a complaint from a neighboring property. It was noticed that someone was building on a property. And there were no permits processed through City Hall or through county. So we are working on stopping that building and following the process to get that taken care of.
Nice.
Either remove or fine or
Yeah,
go through the process that you're supposed to.
makes sense.
Financial manager reconciled all 4 accounts, the LGIP, the ML checking, the utility billing, and the mini court. She prepared a budget with the CA. She prepared a budget without the CA and a police officer. She began delving into the world of federal ARPA grants for reporting purposes. Assisted the office manager and city recorder at City Hall during the transition of not having a CA. Assisted with communication with the planner for the TGM grant and worked with the facilities manager on budgeting for public works. And then city recorder created agendas, noticed and attended and ran Zoom for 9 city meetings last month.
Is that a record?
For me, it is, yes.
That's a lot.
I think it's a record.
It was a lot. I completed minutes for 3 of those meetings. Did 20 website updates, processed, I believe 4, maybe 4.5. So I put 4 to 5 building compliance applications. I received a scholarship for Northwest Clerks Institute, saving $750 in dues travel training, and worked on the master fee schedule update. all of this administrative staff certified in CPR, first aid, and AED. We handled utility billing payments, accounts, start, finalized service, and customer service. And then we attended demos for utility billing online payment providers, selected a provider, and have begun the onboarding process for that.
Is that a new provider?
The billing provider, so the software that we use to process the billing is the same. Since we have switched over to Amston, we have not had an online payment option for people. So people who want to pay online, unfortunately, we have not. So we have been working with another company that has been dragging us along, and we just found out last month that they don't even work with the program that we have. So we have ended working on getting that set up, and met with two other providers that both jive with Amston. And the one that we selected is pretty promising. We're doing training this Friday, so hopefully by next billing period, we'll have some online payment options for people.
Interesting.
And then for upcoming events, May 11th through 17th is Police Officer Week. May 15th, tomorrow, is Police Officer Memorial Day, so flags will be at half staff. Planning Commission on May 19th has the legislative update hearing. On the 26th, we have Memorial Day, so the city offices are closed. On May 28th is when we would have the budget hearings, and that would be the public's opportunity to come in and make comments directly related to the budget. And city council meeting coming up in June 11th, which would have the DLCD grant legislative update, budget approval, and state revenue sharing. Thank you.
Great job. All right, and then, so moving on from there would be unfinished, go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question? in
Well, then you
regards
did
to-
anyway, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So this doesn't have anything about what you've done, but what was addressed, I don't know, a couple months ago, a possible new bus stop, and whoever it was that walked through the city, whatever, I don't know what you all did, whatever became of that?
Yes, so that's gonna be part of the transportation master plan, which is in the works.
Okay, so no decision as to potentially where it would be, because I know Shelley was working on that.
To my knowledge, that is all up and coming.
There was a question from TriMet, is that what comes through? That they were asking, they were putting new bus stops in, and they did ask us where people would want the bus stops located. Shelley provided all that information to them after putting on a Facebook and collecting everybody's opinions on it. And that was the last of it. So
It's just up in the air
Yeah,
at this
that's-
point?
yeah, it's them that would be putting in these. So I haven't seen any progress on it.
Okay. That's all, because I never heard anything after that. In fact, because I said, I gave a comment to her in regards to where to put one.
Not with the
Mayor, would you like me to speak about the Economic Development Committee? Since the representative, the chair isn't here, but I am a member.
I would love it if you would do that because that's where we have to move next.
Good, yeah, great. Well, thank you. My name is Robert Davis. I'm on the Economic Development Committee and many others, but I'm going to do my best to take the chair's place. One of the items that we discussed at our last Economic Development Committee meeting was the fact that we reviewed what our walkthrough through the city was and all the empty lots, all the lots that are actually filled with businesses, what those businesses were. We discussed also, thanks to Patty, we also talked about why some of these businesses have left, because those who don't remember the past are going to relive it. So we don't want to relive any more businesses going out of business. So that was one aspect. The other aspect that we talked about was, and the most important part was the fact that we had lost our liaison, who was Shelley, the city administrator, who was our liaison from the city council, city to our economic development, and what we would like to have the council do is meet with the Economic Development Committee in a short meeting to establish a new train, possibly whether it's Angie or whether it's somebody else, but we need to get somebody in that
Just for your
position.
information, I am the liaison for them now in the
Mhm.
EDC. I attended this last meeting.
Yes.
As
Yeah,
a
so, other than that, we're still formulating our position and still trying to, since we lost Phil Higgins, and we are down, how many positions? 2? We're down 2 positions for, filling our, committee. At the last event that I put on for Yamhill Neighborhood, which was a woman's gun training course, I asked for people to volunteer. So I'm out there recruiting people, so, but in any case, that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you, Mo.
You're welcome.
So that was the Economic Development Committee. There is no planning commissioner here because they had no meeting last month, which moves us to unfinished business.
So with
Go
the
ahead.
planning, we had the gentleman that turned in his application. Do we just accept that? Is it
So then there's
automatically on?
actually, we're gonna talk about that under, where are we talking about
Okay.
that?
New business.
Under new business, planning commission vacancies.
Okay.
So coming right up, but online billing, I think we just addressed that. Was there more, Angie, that you wanted to add?
That was the update that I had.
I love it. So the TGM grant update. That grant's been around since 2023, was started by Walt Wendelowski. It's amazing that he's coming back to finish it. And those meetings will be set up in the upcoming weeks. Which moves us to C, which is not on your list, Bob, sorry. Which is the master fee discussion. Did you want to start out with that, Angie, or do you want me to do that?
What was your preference?
Oh. Did you have it? Well, how about this? You have a place where you would like us to start? SDCs?
Yeah.
Okay. So SDCs, I think everybody got in their packet. In 2018, council decided that the city should establish a policy of renewing its SDCs every 5 years. I don't believe that that's been done, has it, Angie, since then, for the most part?
The updating of the SDCs?
The annual updating, I think we did update them one time in a,
Yeah, we did last year, update them. We were late. They are to be, I believe it's
January 1 of each year.
January 1 of each year. So we were late updating them last year. And I'm looking to update them again this year while I'm working on a master fee schedule update. And so I gave you all a breakdown of what it would be if we follow the formula in our resolutions. So currently, SDCs, I'm just gonna go to the total 19,360 for water, sewer, park, street and storm. With a 4.5% increase based on the ENR DCI. In December of last year, which I also included for you. That would bring the total of all the SDCs to 20,231.20, about $1,000 more per building. We have, I think, about a dozen left over at the Park Meadows. So I think it would be beneficial for us to update those as soon as we can.
Does anybody have any questions on the SDCs and?
Do we have some sort of, like, I feel like we're often behind on updating the fees until we need the money. Do we have some sort of like database or something that like tells you when stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Fees need to
So
be-
I don't, do you have this?
Well, yeah, but like, this is paper, like, you still have to remember to look at it.
Right, so what we can do as a council is we can, I think, direct staff that on the first of each year to produce that report for the January meeting. Would that be correct?
Correct. But what I'm actually looking to do is, since I'm working on the master fee schedule, is to include all of the different fees, all to be updated at the same time every year. So we're not January doing SDCs and then in June looking at the water and then looking at the police service fee every 5 years when it's supposed to be every year. So that type of.
I was gonna offer to make a list, but that sounds like a much better plan.
So they are, I
Okay.
do have them written on the master fee schedule, just so if someone looks at the master fee schedule, they can see everything all at once.
Okay.
But they are per the resolutions that are currently there, all at different times of the year, so.
Okay.
What I would like to do is get guidance on what you wanna do with that, include it on the master fee schedule and just do one resolution for all of them.
And what time of the year do you want to do that for upcoming years?
I think around budget time is good. I don't know if necessarily right during budget time, it could be just after budget, maybe. That we would be
June.
looking at them. Mhm.
Would everybody, yeah,
Go ahead.
no,
Well, if you did it too close to budget, then you wouldn't know if it gets passed, right?
it should be done before budget maybe.
So we wanna look at them in the beginning of the year?
So I think the January makes more sense.
I think the January meeting, if that's all right with you,
Cause then we have a couple of months to have any discussions we want.
that's a good point.
That would be your guys' call, and I think it sounds like a great idea.
What's this no calculations for uncollected funds over the last 5 years? What funds are not collected?
So what I'm noting there is that I'm giving you what the increases would have been had we followed the resolution every year.
Okay.
We didn't. So if you're looking into the amounts, I mean, it's not just $1.20, it's, that increased every year times every month times every user that we didn't collect already. So by this year, it would be $6.20 rather than $5. But you missed all those years.
So my question too, then, is everyone required to pay the police service fee, or do we have people that are not paying it?
So
Jumping ahead.
it is required. It is not something that gets shut off in, if it's not paid. Per the utility ordinance, I believe, there is a way that the payments are to be allocated, and they're supposed to go to water and sewer first. Then to, police service, and then stormwater after that. So that's how the payments should be allocated.
So is there a large number of community members that don't pay the police service fee?
I don't,
Or you're not
I
sure?
don't
It's okay
believe
if you don't know.
there's a large number that don't pay it.
Interesting.
So I have a comment in regards to this. When this was, because I was at all the meetings when it came to the police service fee. It was not stated when this was initiated, because I specifically asked in regards to increases.
Mhm.
It was not specifically stated that there would be an increase every year. That would be,
Well, I
Which
can
it
give you a copy of the
states that in
resolution.
here.
Yeah, that's the resolution.
right. But like I say, when it was addressed in council, they did not specify then that it would be an automatic yearly increase, because like I say, I specifically asked about that
Mhm.
because of the issue that was going on with Sheridan.
Right.
And the only thing that was stated was if there was an increase, it would more than likely be associated with the CPI. That's how that's how the attorney at that time, whatever his name was,
Tyler.
stated it. No, it wasn't Tyler. It was,
Gallo.
Gallup.
The police service fee does here say that it
I
increases
know
with
it,
the
but
CPI.
I know it says here that it would, but it also states that it's an automatic annual increase, which,
Based on the CPI.
right, but it says that it shall be automatically increased annually. But when the police fee was initially being addressed, there was no indication, no statement, no comment, no nothing, that it would be an annual increase. He said if there was an increase, it would be according to whatever the CPI is.
Right, because if the CPI indicates no increase, then there would be no increase.
No, that's not how it was stated.
Well, I mean, we can't speak to that now. We don't, I mean, we'd have to pull.
I know, but the point
Yeah.
is that it was not stated that there would be an annual increase in the police fee when it was addressed and agreed upon.
What was that?
Would this whole thing have been read though before it was
No.
distributed?
It was not read because the justification for the police fee in the ordinance has absolutely nothing to do with why the police fee was requested in the first place. It's two
So
totally
this is
different
what
things.
the code is now.
Right.
This is our code. So this was what was passed. The only way to, I mean, what you're saying is what was said in the meetings or what was, I mean, was it provided? Did you have a copy of it provided? It should have been.
The
I
chief,
can't speak to that. It's
I
something you
know.
would have to look to the previous minutes, but
right,
right now, I can understand why they would say if, because it says that council can elect to defer by resolution. And also, per Mayor Corrigan's comment, it could not increase if the CPI did not.
So, I mean, it does say the council can decide not to do that.
right.
Well, that's why we're trying to have a conversation about it. So it would automatically increase unless council decided that it would automatically increase if the CPI indicated so, according to chapter 7.2.050. And I'm not sure how we would possibly get this into code if it wasn't decided on by council. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it, if that was the case?
Interesting indeed.
Well, but what I'm saying too, though, Shay, is that the ordinance, if you look at why the ordinance was established in the first place, that is not what the chief requested, or that's not what he stated when he was addressing and requesting a police fee. The purpose of the police fee in the ordinance, totally different than what he was requesting the police fee in the first place for.
So you're saying what he verbally requested?
Yes.
2020?
Yes.
I don't know how any of us could speak to that.
Well, I can because I specifically was at all the meetings associated with it. And I have the minutes. I just have not been able to find the ones yet that how he specified that money would be used.
But isn't it the ordinance that's the important part, like?
Right, I mean, anybody can say whatever they want, but then the ordinance does what the ordinance does.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who writes up the ordinance, but what the ordinances
So
say.
staff writes the ordinance, it's
Okay,
presented to council, council votes on it, and then it becomes what we do.
okay, well,
And 7.20.050, and I mean, the way I would see it, and I don't know about other council feels, but if you have some documentation to suggest that that chapter is incorrect or illegally installed, that you should bring that to council's attention, and then it can be corrected.
I'm just saying that what has been stated in the ordinance for this is not how it was stated when it was initially requested. And as far as the yearly increase, it was not an automatic increase every year. That's how it was stated when it was all addressed initially. How the ordinance was written is a totally different thing.
That could be, so again, so in 2020, I did not serve, I believe I may have been on the planning commission at that point, but I was not on council. And do you recall this coming out? So what we have before us is not, did it become legal or not legal, or was it misrepresented? What we have before us is, do we need to increase the fee? And do we follow the fee schedule that has been on the books for 5 years? you know?
Mhm.
And again, I mean, if you have something that's contrary to it, then we should, that can be discussed, but for now, I mean, if we don't have any information, it's kind of hard to,
Well, I didn't know this was gonna be on the agenda tonight until a couple hours before the meeting. Or I would have dug through all of my stuff to find it.
This
Either
just
way.
seems like a silly thing to debate over,
Yeah.
like, it's $6.
Well,
Things
it's
go up,
it's $1.20 more than what we are, so it's
that's nothing.
12 pop cans, take them back to the store. But then you go into the thing above the highlighted one, the police service fee, so if people aren't paying it, we have there's collecting delinquent stuff too. And so we're gonna increase it for the people that are paying it, but not hold anybody accountable that isn't paying it. So there becomes kind of an issue.
I believe there is, so the remedy cannot be for a service fee to disconnect their water as long as they're paying the water bill.
Correct.
But I do believe the penalty is that it does go into collections.
Okay.
So there's a negative that would, I assume that would affect a person's credit score, that sort of thing.
Yep.
I would also imagine that there's fees associated with,
Probably both.
with being laid on.
Yeah.
Seems like the right thing to do is pay. You live here, pay fee.
I mean, we are, if we do increase it, then we're telling our citizens we're increasing the police service fee, but we're not replacing one of the officers too. I mean, there's that.
Well, so, and I thought about that as well, Chris, but the way that I'm seeing this fee is that
It brings us into compliance with what it's.
it brings us into compliance, but the thing is that also, I mean, when we had our town hall about, whether or not to have a police department, the overwhelming amount of community support was for the police.
Yeah.
And in order to, and it's not the city of Yamhill that does that. I mean, there was an article about St. Helens, it was on the local news. But that most cities are having to go to this because the costs of things are rising so quickly, and effectively the property taxes are frozen. So as things go up, we don't get, you don't get more. So in order to provide services, these fee structures have to go into place, and a lot of small towns are doing it and a lot of big towns are doing it. And we've done it. So, I mean, we have the SDC fees and we have the police service fee. And I believe in the budget this year, there's a park fee, $2.
Do we?
So, and I'll tell you, we got a lot more than $2 a person out of that work that everybody put together to get those ball fields done.
Do you know if there was a resolution? Oh, wait. Hold on. Oh. So this says the council may set by resolution fees for extra services required in collecting delinquent customer accounts. Do you know if that?
Okay. That is something that we can look at. That would not be for tonight, that would be for the next meeting.
Yeah.
So where we are though now is literally looking at these fee schedules. And again, Patty, I'm not trying to discount what you're having to say. It's just going back to what the lawyer said before, in past years, is that if it's not written down, it never happened. And that's what he said. It's kind of, that was backhanded, what he said to me when that was going on. But if there is something that makes this void or different, it would be addressed.
Okay,
But until we have an opportunity to see that,
right,
we have to go based on because all this kind of stuff all goes through the proper channels and becomes part of the code and the way that we do business in Yamhill.
I understand that.
So obviously, anybody or anything that can determine that one of these things is wrong or in place improperly, it would be addressed by council immediately, wouldn't it?
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm going to say one more thing in regards to this, and I've said this multiple times in the past. That if we're gonna have a police service fee, then the police should be enforcing all the laws, not just what they decide they want to enforce. Because in their public service fee, it's protection of life and property. Well, and I can attest to this because I said it over and over again, and so can anybody who lives on 240. The speed in town is off the charts. I mean, it is ridiculous. And I know the chief doesn't like me talking about it, and I'm sure everybody's getting tired of hearing me. I'm getting tired of saying it, but it needs to be enforced.
So so if you go to the police stats for last month,
I
right?
don't care about those stats.
Well,
When,
so I let you speak, so I'd
I know
appreciate
it.
the same opportunity, please. And then you'll have another chance. But I had a point to make, and it wasn't just about the stats. But if you look at the stats of 195 hours for their chief, and for a corporal of 179, we've lost Officer Meller. That's 116 hours that he was on the clock. And we don't have a budget to replace him.
I understand that.
And so to look at a service fee of $6.06 instead of $5 is not going to replace an officer. But it's gonna maybe put a plug in the hole that's causing us to not be able to have them. Because if you're worried about having people speeding in town, and I am too, because I don't like it any more than you do. And I don't disagree that there's people that speed through this town all the time, but more officers, not less, is how you solve it. You can't get rid of all the cops and then say, well, the speeders will stop.
But we haven't gotten rid of all the police. I mean, when I moved here, like I
We're
said,
down
Travis,
one third in 1 month.
I understand that. When I moved here, Travis was the only officer that I knew of that was on duty. And he did more stops in one day than he does in a week now. And with the ODOT information of more than 10,000 vehicles going through this town a day, the stats that are given on a monthly basis is minute compared to what's reality that is happening on a daily basis going through here. I mean, 25 tickets or 50 tickets, that's when at least 95% of the vehicles that go through this town are speeding, especially in the school zones. And I'm not the only one that says that, but I'm the only one that is speaking out on it. So yeah, it's irritating when I see an increase when that police fee is supposed to be going to the police department, not under the general fund.
The police department's paid from the general fund.
But it states that the police fee is supposed to be utilized by the police department only.
Right, so it's a line item in the budget.
Right,
And
but
it
if
goes to
you
the
look
police
at,
department.
but if you
The
look
police
under,
department's in the general fund, that's that right?
but if you look under the police section of this, there's no expenditures from the police fee. It's all in the general fund. It's all under the general fund. None of it under the police fund. So if they're generating revenue from the police fee, I would think that that revenue would be under their portion of the budget, not the general fund budget.
It is kind of a good question. The Public Works has like 20 different categories of all these different fee schedules that are in the back of our budget, right? So why is there not one that's separate, that's police fees? I mean, yeah, it would keep it more clean.
So I'm done with that. I'm done talking in regards to that.
But I still think we probably need to go up to the 620.
I agree.
Like, but I think we should make sure that everybody is paying it too and do some follow up on that.
Yes.
Know what, as far as like delinquent or doubling, does that go to like a collections thing after a certain amount of time. Is there a cost to the city? Well, obviously, I guess there is. Associated with
Well, the
it.
collections collect from what they collect, so
Yeah.
if they don't collect it, then we don't receive it.
But you
Money,
feel like
but if
a
they
small
do collect
portion.
it, then they give us a portion of what they collect. I think they get the
So
larger
you-
portion. I don't know the rates for them.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So Patty, I'm looking at the budget for last year. And so what I'm seeing here, and I haven't been able to look through the entire thing, but obviously. So there is a line item for the police service fee.
Right?
And I do not know whether or not, and maybe Mike can help me with this. There may not be a line on the police where it says that that money is going into the police department.
No, not on.
But that is
like on
a
this.
relatively easy thing to do, I would imagine. So we do have an opportunity of coming. As we get to approve or not approve a budget, we can approve a budget with changes. So we could direct staff, I believe, Mike, is this true? We can direct staff currently to add a line item in indicating the 30,000 that goes into the police through the general fund. Although not all things that provide for the police, because it's listed as revenue and expenditures. So the police does not produce enough revenue to cover itself. It's not designed to. So it has to come from somewhere in the general fund. And so that will come, majority of it from property taxes. But of the property taxes, I don't believe there's also a line item that says this percentage of property taxes pays for the police department.
But anybody that is specifically earmarked, like that line item,
Mm-hmm.
should be moved into the resource category.
Sure.
For that particular fund, so that it doesn't just get lost and used to balance the budget for the whole general fund.
So I think that we could probably, with, if council agrees, we could direct staff to add a line item into the budget that we would, it would be nice to do that in advance. Probably so our finance manager has a moment to put that in there. So we can, if we choose to approve this budget, we can approve it with that change. So if we could all make a mental note to make sure that that happens, because I don't think that that is a silly thing at all. To make sure, like Mike says, to make sure it doesn't become lost.
I can tell you as someone who takes all the water billing payments that it is separated. Everything we enter into the cash register is split between sewer, water, police, and stormwater. Every time I take a payment, I have to allocate them to the different accounts. So it is allocated, I don't know.
But just for transparency, we should, maybe we can put a line item into it to make sure that that just is easier for people to understand.
Makes sense.
Okay.
They're gonna get a bigger cash register if we start doing park fees too,
Mhm.
the doors.
We'll have to put a line in for parks then too, if that's something that gets approved. Now, after all that, we're back to SDCs and police service fees. So if we can isolate for just a minute, because it seems to be less difficult to discuss SDCs. Does anybody have an issue or a problem with increasing the SDCs, the 4.5%?
When would the next review be?
The next review would be January,
Okay.
if we were to do it now.
I don't have a problem.
And then moving on to the police service fees, we know Patty's not happy about it. Does anybody else have issue, problem? So just so you know, the $6.06 is the scheduled increase. Had we been doing it the way that it was designed to be done, it would have gone from $5 in 21 to $5.35 to $5.70 to $5.89 to $6.06. So that's a decent amount of revenue that was actually left on the table. It was never picked up.
All I wanted to know, I just wanted to make sure everyone was paying it. Was my question.
I believe there's a handful, is what I was told, that do not pay it.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I'm told that it's, not many. But again, Councilman Askey was talking about, there's council may set resolution fees for extra services required for collecting customer accounts of the police service fee. So there's remedies built into it.
I mean, but it'll increase it's not necessarily money that the city will get if it's delinquent, like.
Right,
you're just
because if
adding
somebody's just not
into
gonna
it.
pay it, they're not gonna pay it.
But it, maybe it'll, have some sort of, preventing people from, like, becoming delinquent
Mhm.
or something.
Well, so I think that
I just-
there's two issues there really, right? One is, do we think that it should stay where it is at 2021 levels? When it was even decided by council then that it should increase. Right? And then the other thing to be addressed later probably is how do you get people to pay if they don't wanna pay it? Maybe there's two separate issues there.
Well, I think the .40 that making the fees for the people that are delinquent. I think maybe if staff could see what the fees are by other similar sized towns that are doing this, then we would know so that we're not like out of left field somewhere, right?
Okay.
And they could do some research on how many, because maybe it's just gonna be talking to some people and being like, hey.
I can do that too, since they're probably busy. with other stuff.
And the thing is too, is that there could be situations where people maybe misunderstand the fee or don't understand what it is.
Or just can't afford the additional $6, and in that case, I don't think we should be tacking on but I mean. Hopefully they would communicate that, because I think we have something set up.
So the police the service fees, right, those go on to the water. And if somebody is in hard times, there's assistance that's available
Yeah.
for utilities. I don't think that it goes for service fees or property tax, or I don't think there's, in the fee structures, I don't know that there's a low income option.
I'll do the research on
Okay.
yeah, the other city research for that. And just kind of see what else is going on out there.
Perfect.
So then do we just wanna table it until next month while we do a little bit more research? Or do we want to,
Well, so what he's looking at is the collection.
for the collection part?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the service fees, I mean, it's set in here to follow the CPI. And the CPI says that it should, as far as
I'm still okay with adding on the addition to get it up to date.
and then again, to Patty's concerns earlier about 7.2.050, if something's incorrect in that, it should be readdressed. It says that council can change that as needed.
Yeah.
So if there is something that's wrong, or if it was misrepresented and installed improperly, then that would be addressed, I think, yes?
Need to, yeah.
Okay, so
I will.
just assuming
I
that
need.
we're saying today,
Yeah.
based on what we know at this moment, that this is correct. Would we want to, you would need a vote, or do you just need direction, Angie? On the increase, if we were to vote to increase?
If you're wanting to make the increase now, then. Yes, I would need a motion.
You need a motion.
This now, and then, for the park service fee, that one isn't, we don't even have an ordinance for that, so.
We'd have to wait for an adopted budget.
I would need a vote for direction, someone to direct me to begin looking at creating an ordinance.
So you're just asking for direction on that?
Yeah, if you want me to start now, or we can wait till after the budget's adopted, if that's easier. It was just, I was just trying to include them all, because I'm working on the master fee schedule, so I just want to kind of go it across the board, so.
So that leaves us, I think, with two options. One is to approve SDC, police, and parks. But to me, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to approve parks in advance of a budget, then, right? If something changes in that, I doubt that it would.
I think we should table it till next month,
Everything,
everything.
I mean, every dollar counts, though, like, these are out of date. right?
They're out of date from
Not,
twenty
not the
twenty-one.
park, I don't think the parks.
The parks, right, that, to me, that has to wait for the budget.
Or actually, we'll have the same problem we have.
Yeah.
The service fee. They'll have, be charging.
And like
folks money
public
with no
hearings and
directions on
stuff.
what to do with that money, then you post, voting, you write up an ordinance that may not match the reason. So you have.
But that's what we're, well, so, but this was gotta be a council discussion, but that's what we had just said, right, was to not include the parks. It would be more convenient for staff, obviously, to be able to put that together now, but it would be inappropriate, I think, like said, to have that. So that being said, STCs and police service fees, but you guys want to table?
I don't think we need to do that. I mean, the only thing that's gonna be that Tim's gonna look into something that doesn't have anything to do with this, really.
It would be in addition, yeah, it's kind of separate because we'd have to do
Yeah.
a resolution for that separately anyways. And this is just to get us up to date to where we should have been.
And then the other option would be to approve one or the other. I think that the STCs, because our STCs should have gone up and they haven't. So for every new house that's built between now and next month, if any start, and this would be the time of year to do that, they would be paying the old amount, not the new amount.
I make a motion, we increase the SDC and police service fees to get them up to date to the proposed amounts.
Do we have a second?
Can you clarify the amount on the police service fee? Because you guys were saying 606, but the increase.
Oh, no, it was 6, yeah, 620.
To six, police service fee to 620,
Okay,
and then the. I need the SDC amount, too.
you could just,
Wouldn't that be by the 0.045%?
4.5%.
Yes. Okay, so I make a motion to increase SDC fees by 4.5% to get them up to date and to increase police service fee to $620 per month to get that up to date as well. Based on the ordinance.
We have a
and
second.
resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, well then we can vote.
Is it, we have to start with me.
It always starts on the left. I don't know why. It's just been a thing. I used to sit in that chair too. It was terrible.
Featherston, aye, that's fine.
And I.
Morgan, I.
SKI.
Karen and I.
Well, I didn't see that coming at all.
Well, I'm not.
No, I mean, all of us.
Oh.
I didn't see a unanimous vote. I wasn't singling you out
Okay,
yet.
because I was gonna say, you can't increase one, which I think we need the SD fees increased, and not increase the other because they were both on the same day. And I just have a quick question, Angie. When, do you know when the last time was our water and sewer was increased?
when the, water rate study was
Last year, right?
completed 2 years ago?
I thought that was on too, Kim, and so I'm wondering,
So.
we can ask
Late in
Angie,
2020.
if we can just direct
So
staff
we're
from now
not
on
increasing those
to
on-
update the update the police service fee with the CPI annually.
You have it.
Because it doesn't even go to council every year. What we can do is have a council meeting, wasn't it? So, all right, let's get back to it, guys. So, question for you that we were just discussing. The CPI, is the adjustment of the police service fee, and it says that, it shall automatically increase annually based on the CPI. So can we just direct staff to increase annually the police service fee based on the CPI? And if we feel for some reason that it's gone over, council has a mechanism built in
Or
to,
Mr. Bear,
to stop that.
do we wanna look at maybe changing it so it doesn't automatically happen?
Well, that would be something we could do too.
Just think about that. Maybe we don't want it to automatically happen.
So Tim's gonna do research on 7.20, whatever, 0.040. Let's do some more research on that, and that can be something for next month.
Yeah.
To adjust that, to see if it's just an automatic. So the thing is I do like the ability for council to have some control on it. And what I have noticed from council is that when you give the council control, it hasn't gone up since 2021 or been discussed. Right, it gets forgotten.
But we didn't have control and it still got forgotten. Cause this is automatic and it still got forgotten,
But
so,
that's why Angie's working on the.
yeah.
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 So there's a lot of things that have been forgotten over the years that we're trying to address now to
Okay.
make sure that there's holes are patched and that doesn't happen again.
Look, that makes sense.
So mechanisms for all of it. Well, okay, that was crazy. Everybody happy at this point?
Yes, ecstatic. What's next?
So many papers came out. All right. So there was the master fee discussion. Moving on. So the new business is the planning commission vacancies. So it's been 5 months with 2 vacancies or longer with.
5 months since the initial vacancy, and then we received another resignation since then, so now we have 2 vacancies and the only application we've received was today from an outside of the city limits. Per our ordinance right now, we can only have 1 outside of the city limits, but still within the 97148 zip code. And so I guess the discussion, the reason I put it on there is because I would like to know if the council, we obviously changed it previously for an ordinance because we weren't getting enough planning commission applications. If the council wanted to look into possibly changing that again to allow 2 outside, so that we have more options.
Is it 5? How many total?
There's 5, I think, on planning.
5 total, there's 3 right now.
So one person's sick and something busy or they have a busy month, they don't have quorum.
So here's another thing. This says that they must live within 5 miles of city limits. For me, I think of, there's 2 ways you can measure that, as the crow flies by measuring it just with your Google Maps or the roads that you travel. So, but nowhere on his application do we have his address to know where he lives, to know if he's even can be within the 5 miles.
I just got the application today, but that's something that that we would be. At this point, the application I just provided because I received it today. You can't, unless the ordinance has changed, that application is void because we already have 1 outside of city limits.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is on the planning commission.
Can't have 2, so.
Hmm?
You only have 1.
We can only have 1.
So
Yeah,
Again,
the ordinance right now,
Right.
yes.
let's keep it with council, but that is correct. It does say right now that you can have 1 outside. That rule was changed because of not being able to find people that would serve. And that's where we find ourselves again, which is why Mr. Warren came for council asking to have that changed. And to me, I find it somewhat reasonable to have somebody from outside that sees Yamhill as their town and spends time and spends their money here in town.
What is there like a route in case, like a route planning, what would, like, what if eventually we do have, it becomes something that people within the city want to get into?
So then, well, so the way, I don't know, I mean, I'm just spitballing. So if you, right now, there's 1 outside.
Yeah.
So, and that's Commissioner Moore. Now, if he was to retire, decide not to continue, or resign his post, then I suppose council would be able to say it. You know, if there's 100 people applying inside the city limits, you could change that rule and say that no, you have to live inside the city limits.
So has anybody reached out to anybody else? Cause I
That's
was
what I
thinking
was
about it,
thinking.
but because I'm on council, I can't be.
Right.
Mayor,
So,
You guys, this is we really need to start following Robert's rules on this, and this is a council discussion currently. So thank you, but we can talk either after or during the public comment period.
I mean, I would prefer somebody to be on council or on planning that's within the city because everything that is done by the planning commission affects us as a whole. Somebody that lives out, and I'm gonna use the water, for instance, if somebody decided that it was a good idea to build another 250 homes in town and their deciding vote, that's a scary thing for me. Somebody outside the city that absolutely nothing, they're not gonna be affected by any of it. So I would prefer to keep it the way it is, only one person at this point. And maybe reach out to people that you know or whatever that maybe they're not aware that we need people on the planning commission. They don't see the website or whatever the case may be. I mean,
Anybody else have thoughts on it?
I agree with her. I think we need to keep it the way it is with one person, cause that's a 20% and versus 80% of your vote living in town. You know, he's just barely, he would be eligible because he's just barely within the 5 miles. But, and maybe we need to have people do some kind of thing, like with Facebook, you can pay a couple of bucks and you get it out to everybody that's in your zip code or something. Maybe we need to try to do that to try to push some applications. I don't know. But we do need to try to recruit some people.
I mean, so if we did have 2 people from out of town in the current situation, so it'd be half.
yeah.
And then if one, like if Ken is, or sorry, not Ken, someone who's from in town is sick or something, then you have the majority of the quorum.
It's
from
outside
outside. I do think one is, some representation I think is good though. Like, I don't think they should be completely blocked off.
And they could go to all the meetings they want, just they won't be able to vote. They could go, you know, but
Well,
What's that?
I think it would be nice if we had some interest from people
I
that
can
live here.
think, I can think of.
They'll never see it happen.
A few people, I don't, they'd probably say no, but.
But see,
I
that's just it.
haven't
So you think
tried.
of a few
I
people and they
haven't
say no, and the same thing, I mean, and look, I completely understand and am sympathetic to exactly what you're saying, Patty. Like, it would be so much better to have somebody in town doing it. Because you, again, you don't, I mean, you live 5 miles out and they build an apartment complex that nobody want, you know, that kind of thing. Cause you don't have to see it, you're 5 miles away. That said, where is everybody? I mean, it's been 5 months, it's been advertised, it's been pushed out on social media, it's on, you know. How do you get somebody to serve?
Well, I go to the planning meeting, so when on the the 28th or 29th? No, whatever next Monday is. The 19th? Yeah, I'm way ahead of, anyway. I will bring that point up and I'm going to ask them if they have reached out to anybody in regards to potentially serving on the planning commission. See what their thoughts are.
We still have the contact info of the other 2 people that applied for council.
Yeah, we keep the applications on file.
can we mail them an application? Committee?
Please return them tomorrow.
With a self-contained
The planning,
envelope?
the planning commission was open when these people applied for council and not planning.
And they weren't asked at that point when they were not voted,
Yeah.
so please, I encourage you to
I
sign
I
up and they
think
chose
that,
not
like,
to.
just mentioning it versus like a phone call or something, I don't know. Even leaving a voicemail.
And even, what's his face that was gonna run, that was thinking about running for mayor? what's his name, just right up the road here? What's his name?
Was
The
this
guy,
last cycle was Brian Denman,
no.
Are you talking about Chuck? Cause he.
Todd Olivera.
Yes, what about
Todd
Todd?
Olivera, I've talked to him about it and he said he is too busy.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not speaking for him today. That was months ago. So maybe his situation's changed. But then again, I mean, one of the things to look at too is that you have somebody that spends their time and money and grew up here, their kids go to school here, who's coming hat in hand saying, please let me help. You know what I mean? And then the people that live in town are just too busy to do it.
I will reach
So-
out to Todd, because I have his phone number still. I'll reach out to him and see what his thoughts are, if he potentially, because it's not like the planning commission meets 3 or 4 times a month, it's once a month.
For the most part.
Yeah,
When something big's going on, there's some time commitment to put into it.
yeah, I know, just like here. But
Know what the population is of outside, people outside of city limits within 5 miles? Like. If it is 50-50. I don't know, maybe it would make sense to, but then, I don't know.
Is that something you might want to check on and we can table this and put it on
Yeah,
next
sure.
month's agenda?
Sure.
If we're gonna do, is everybody good with that?
And that will give
More
us
thought.
time to complete that.
There'll be more thought, and
application
then how about this? That's more thought and that's more time for somebody to apply and maybe we can all,
And
and
recruit.
everybody just put the pressure out to get somebody to sign up. Yeah. If we're done there. We would move to council reports and the mayor's report. I was approached by Melissa Siciliano, who doesn't live in town. But she served on the Carlton Tourism Committee, and is interested in starting a tourism committee for the city of Yamhill. And we have a lot of committees and a lot of subcommittees, which means a lot of minutes, which are public, right? And then we have staff that has to take time to make sure that those are on Zoom and agendas written and so forth.
Couldn't tourism go under economic development?
It could
And
become a part of economic development, but if it was a subcommittee thereof, there would still be
They're
2 meetings.
they're down 2 positions. Do
You
they,
can't serve because there's very strict qualifications on what allows you to be on the economic development
And
board for some reason.
with her work, that would not work. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so what we could do, another thing that we could do is we should look at what qualifies somebody to be on economic. Because there's some very strange things as far as you have to be a downtown business owner was one of them, not just a resident.
Who
It's very
did they
specific.
create that?
No, I believe, Bob, you're on it, but the city administrator, I believe, created the rules based on who had applied for that.
Specific chairs for specific people.
Well, if we're down 2 positions in that committee,
And they're ultra specific.
they're super, super specific, that maybe we need to look at changing that membership restrictions.
Have 2 wild cards.
So why don't we do that? So let's, because we've tabled the planning commission vacancy. So let's, for the next agenda, let's ask that we put on, we'll bring the planning commission vacancy discussion back. And then let's also put on the economic development, because I think it would be wise to speak to the chair of the economic development board before we change their program without their consultation.
Yeah.
But then open it, my goal would be to open that up to anybody that lives inside the city limits.
Maybe you have a couple of seats that are for business owners, one at large that doesn't have to be somebody from outside of town too.
But the thing about having it be a little bit more just a resident is then if you have multiple applicants, for example, then they apply and then are accepted by their committee, then the recommendations made to council to seat that person. If they're at a time of lean times when there's nobody applying, they may have an applicant that they would want to put on. But just remember, because if you have an opening and you have a single applicant, you don't have to vote for that applicant. You can choose to leave that position open. It would, I think, to me, it would provide flexibility to their commission. So is that okay, Angie, if we put that on for the next month?
Yeah, that's fine. And just a point of information, I did attend this last Economic Development Committee and meeting and pointed that out to them. And they are looking for suggestions on membership, broadening the search because it is very specific on the roles of each member, and that shrinks the pool of applicants, so.
So as the, because you are.
Possibly they'll have their suggestions ready by next,
They'll meet before the next council meeting?
Yes.
And you're the liaison?
Mhm.
Great, so we could ask that question from them?
Mhm.
That would be awesome, and then we would know where they wanna go, and we
Mayor,
can put that on for next time.
Mayor, I have-
Only because you're on the economic development, we're talking about it, please go ahead, Bob.
Our 827 resolution creating the Economic Development Committee says under ordinance C, membership, the Economic Development Committee. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do that for the next one. Yeah. Council reports.
I have something.
Oh, good.
It's gonna be short and sweet. So I met with Clint Reaver over at the school in regards to the newsletter, if you wanna call it that. He is, he had a very positive attitude about it. And I explained to him that the intent is not for it to get out of control so that it's causing a lot of work for everybody involved. But he is asking, and this kind of concerned me, about getting Carlton involved. Because it's a joint effort between the school and the city. And because the school is part of Carlton, he wanted to know if we could get Carlton involved.
For the newsletter for both,
For the newsletter for both, but.
but for both councils, I mean, is that what it's still focused on?
No, for, it would be a newsletter that would, I'm assuming, go to Carlton also, because he says that it's mailed out.
Mhm.
Has anybody here gotten a newsletter
From the school?
from the school?
Yeah,
No.
I got, it was, or wait, no, we got.
I
that
get
meeting.
texts every 20 minutes.
No, this is an actual newsletter.
The school did, but I
Yeah.
think it's only been once or twice this year, and it's folded paper, it
Yeah.
had colored pictures on it.
Oh, yeah, no, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too big.
Did it
I
come
thought
to
you meant
your-
like it was a
did it come to
regular
your phone?
schedule.
But they have kids in the district. My kids are grown.
Yeah, see, and that's where I explained, I said, well, I'm not getting anything. Because it's supposedly going to all residents within the city, whether it be a physical address or a PO box.
Hmm.
But I think it's only going to the people
Children.
associated with the school, you know, their kids. Anyway, either way. So my only concern with getting Carlton involved would be if they started doing a whole lot of advertisements for businesses and all that kind of thing. Because the larger it gets, the more costly it is.
Sure.
And like I explained to him, I said, personally, I think that if we would have had something like that in place, that this little business up the street here next, across from T&E wouldn't have gone out of business already because people would have been made aware of it.
I
Just-
think that was medical.
Really? Well, either way. So, there's two options. Does anybody know anybody in Carlton that could address this? To see if they would be willing to do this.
But do you think that they would want to focus the time on Hill though?
It would have to be, he wants to have Carlton and Yamhill involved.
Was
in
it just the daily goings on of the whole town?
Well, like I explained to him, I said, we could put when city council meetings are in there, if there's some special event going on, say T&E has some special thing that they're doing, that could be in the newspaper.
So I have a beautiful suggestion. So he has people that would like to put that together at the school if the information was
They have a
provided.
journalism class. It's not very big.
Mhm.
They are currently doing this newsletter, which is just relatively small. But because this is something that we have talked about as a city council, well, not me, but city council talked about this, Tim was gonna do it. But then it just kind of got put to the wayside. This is the way of getting a newsletter out there without anybody here having to do the work.
So our newsletter that we were discussing with Tim was more sort of council and, you know, committee of the city oriented. What you're talking about, although is a good idea, and I would suggest that if you were going to do that, there's two easy ways to do it. Is to participate in Pam Kirsch's page and the I Love Carlton page and just write it all down in one, and that would give you both cities in one fell swoop. If you were on the
It
internet.
is, I don't think I wasn't comfortable moving forward with mine because it very easily snowballs into something huge that'll take up a ton of time, especially if you like care about like how something looks and you want it to look good. That's I think that adding EML, although I mean, we wouldn't be doing it, but then like what about in the summer or?
It'd be a quarterly thing, not a monthly thing. Because of the cost involved in this.
I mean,
And then he was talking about doing it maybe every 2 months. In the
That's what
summer,
this is.
there is nothing.
I mean, if we're talking about quarterly, that could have been something that like mine could have worked with, because that would give you time to like compile everything and all of that.
Yeah, but who's gonna do all the work? Cause that's not
I mean,
something that's gonna be,
With a lack of interesting things to write about. And then that's also relevant at the time, like, because I mean, it's great that we got the sidewalk over there, but like 3 months later, people don't really care about it unless they're walking on it.
Well, so
I don't know. I mean,
do we want to refocus efforts on doing one ourselves, or do we want to help out with this one? I mean,
well,
you're more than welcome to.
if it's done here, it's not gonna be in paper form. And to me, that's not something that everybody is gonna have access to. If it's done by the school, I will explain to them that nobody is getting it here in town unless they already have kids. That's the only people that are getting it.
maybe let's do that. Let's find out how often they're wanting to do this.
Quarterly at this
Quarterly.
point.
And then who would it all go to? And then what's like, but I'm not entirely sure on a quarterly letter what it is that council would be providing them.
Talk about how we
It's
like
not
that.
necessarily it wouldn't necessarily be strictly council. I mean, you could put updates in there.
There's a lot of things we could put in there. I mean,
For sure.
Yeah.
Public Works could highlight an employee or what the project they just finished.
Is it geared
or-
for adults or is it geared for the children of the school?
No, for the adults.
It's gonna be for anybody. I mean, I don't personally know what it shows at this point. Does anybody know?
Right now, it's the children.
It's not geared towards children.
Showed like the updates of the.
But I mean, it's about the kids and about what the school's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they had a bunch of stuff about Carlton doing the fire science program and several pictures and some comments about that. That was the only thing I remember
Yeah.
on that one.
Okay.
Else to decide.
The point of all of this, for me to get in touch with the school, is to see if they would include information associated with the city in and have their journalism class doing it, not knowing at the time that they actually had a paper or newsletter, whatever you want to call it, out at this point. So when he said that, And I said, you know, just gave him a couple of examples of what could be added to it. He was all for it. He was all for it. So it's not just for the kids.
Okay.
It would be a little newspaper, 4 pages.
Well, cool. Then, I mean, how about
Yeah.
have them go for it? We'll help, have them reach out to somebody on council and we'll help them out. You can do it if you want.
Well,
Like, and then you can send us emails and
The
whatever
only-
the questions are.
yeah, so the only other thing, like I say, is he wanted to see if Carlton wanted to be involved in it also. They do have a council meeting on June 3rd, and that's why I was wondering if anybody knew here, anybody on council.
I've got the mayor's phone number. I'll call her. See if
Okay.
she'll address it at council and see, get feedback.
Okay. I mean, I don't have any problem going to their council meeting. Boy, their council meetings are long. Are you all aware how long they are?
Are they more than 2
6.
hours? Cause that's where ours are.
6 to 10 is how it's set up right now. That's on their website.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right, so let's do that. Let's reach out to them. We can get the answer for your guy on Carlton and then we can dial that in more.
okay.
Does anybody else have council report? And do you have something huge?
The FFA group does have some leftover flowers, so did we want to plant flowers in our downtown area? We know we talked about that during our little retreat.
Yeah,
I
so
might
there's
be able to get them,
hanging baskets, I know, but you know what we should do
well,
is
they had an
maybe,
individual plant too.
well, I was gonna say is maybe public works, cause some of the parks, I just don't know about watering.
Exactly, they're just gonna die if we don't.
Let's check with Jason and see, cause I mean, that would be awesome if they were just like gifted plants.
There's a gentleman watering.
We could sell raffle
I
tickets.
don't know if they'll
for
be
'em.
gifted, but I think we can get a good deal.
A good deal.
Yeah.
Alright, well, let's first check with Jason and find out if it's
Check
even
with Jason,
feasible.
okay.
Okay. Tim, you got anything?
No, I have my list of to-do stuff and I'll email it to you, I guess.
Cool.
Let you know what I'm doing.
What's that?
I was telling Chris, I'm still in Illinois time.
Oh, you're tired?
Yeah.
Well, let's get going. So let's go for a speed run through information and announcements. Budget hearing scheduled May 28th at 6 p.m. Zoning code, subdivision ordinance and comprehensive plan updates with the planning commission hearing is scheduled May 19th at 6:30 p.m. There's a council hearing scheduled at June 11th at 6:30. There's an OLCC permit for Bull Run. They have a special event at the Larson House on May 17th, as well as with Ransom Spirits. They applied for a liquor license because they actually wanted to sell their bottles under the umbrella of the Larson House. So reminder to all of us, does anybody here update their volunteer hours?
I did a couple months ago, I think I forgot last month.
Fine.
There was
Sure.
so
I was
many,
having a reminder to do it when I get home.
so many meetings this last month.
Yeah. So let's try to get that done because that does help us with grants in the future. And then this is just the way to finish this, a rather clunky meeting up with accepting applications for Planning Commission and Economic Development Committee. We got 2 openings on each one. That is all for announcements. Does anybody have anything else? Can I please get a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second the motion.
Let's all go to Carlton's meeting now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, it was nice and didn't talk during the meeting like other people did.